Who created the first podcast? It wasn't Joe Rogan, and it wasn't Howard Stern, and it definitely wasn't your Uncle Jim who said it was him in his garage. Or maybe it was. In September 2003, Dave Weiner uploaded some MP3 files to his blog and distributed them using RSS. The word podcast didn't even exist at this point. It wouldn't be until 2004, when Apple made its first iPod, that podcasting really became a household name. But was it really the first podcast? Do you want to find out? Yes, you. Take a seat. And let's get started. Some could consider a talk radio show to be a podcast. The first talk show on public radio could have been John J. Anthony, who began his radio series where listeners would call in with their problems all the way back in 1930. Apparently, radio historians consider this the first instance of talk radio. I guess listening to people talk about stuff we care about or daily problems is nothing new. But it's hard to consider something like a radio show that's heavily regulated a podcast. To get around that, we'll need the internet. In 1994, Geffen Records made history by offering the Aerosmith track, Head First, as the first song to be offered exclusively via download. Since it was 1994 and internet speeds were slow as it took between 60 and 90 minutes for users to just finish downloading the file. Those who did manage to hear it on their speakers complained that the audio quality wasn't very good. But they still loved it because they got to hear something before anybody else and listen to it whenever they wanted. And that is what made the internet the perfect place for the podcast to be born. The term podcast was first used by Ben Hammersley in his Guardian article written in February 2004. And in June of 2005, Apple released iTunes 4.9 with native podcast support. Soon after that, in July of 2005, George W. Bush is the first US president to have his weekly address delivered in podcast form. And in December 2005, the term podcast was declared the word of the year by the New Oxford American Dictionary, cementing its name into internet history forever. Sites like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter were also created around 2004-2005. These massive platforms probably helped boost the popularity of podcasting because it made sharing online easy. But we already know podcasts are a pretty big deal on the internet. What we don't know is who was first. Earlier I mentioned Dave Weiner, an American software developer that some people credit with inventing podcasting. But another contender in my opinion would be This American Life with Ira Glass. Starting all the way back in 1995 and still recording today in 2023, although it started as a radio show, you can still find every single broadcast on their online archive. But still, I think the inventor of podcasting is truly none other than Galina Pilipenko and Valery Pasadelov. The Illusion of Independent Radio project was started in 1989 and was distributed through cassette tapes all throughout Soviet Russia. Just like podcasts today, the creators recorded and edited in home studios, and people who wanted to listen had to be subscribers. Listeners could finally comfortably enjoy content outside of government or corporate control. This freedom is an important part of what makes podcasts so amazing to this day.
Right. Kevin Spacey, come on in.
Come on! So, to recap, talk radio started in the 1930s, and internet podcasts started in the early 2000s. But in the late 80s, these two Russian journalists seemed to have started the independent aspect of what we know today as podcasting. At the end of the day, we'll never truly know who created the podcast, so maybe it was your Uncle Jim. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for new videos on the channel. Keep creating, and I'll see you next time.